you how to set up a Turabian style paper in Word. Right, I'm using Word specifically because it's easier. I encourage you to use Microsoft Word. If your computer doesn't have it, type it on one of the library computers. It is far easier to use. That's my opinion. I use Word all the time. I use Word as a student, and so that's what I'm going to show you here. If you want to use things like Google Docs or Pages, if you have a Mac, you can look up any number of videos on how to set it up. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it using Word. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this Word document. And when you do, it'll, the cursor will be here to the left. Remember that for Turabian style papers, it's got to be Times New Roman, 12-point font, 1-inch margins. Here's the good news. Word will default to 1-inch margins, right? It may not default to Times New Roman font, so make sure you do that. Make sure that it is a 12-point font. All Turabian papers require a title page. So we're going to set up the title page here, and then I'll show you how to get your paper started and how to do the footnotes. So on your title page, your title needs to be centered. So what you're going to do is click this button right here, right, which is center the text. Come on now. There you go. And it will move it to the middle. Now, your title doesn't go right there at the top. You're actually going to tab down probably, 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And all your title needs to be in all caps. So I'm going to title this Reading Response 1. You can title your first reading response 1, or you're welcome to come up with a fancy title if you want to. You do not have to, but it must have a title. Right? It's not Turabian format if it doesn't have a title. And the title's got to be in all caps, just like this. So from there, we are going to tab down, probably another 5 or 6 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, you know what? Right down to the middle of the paper, just like this. Next, no caps. Right? You're going to put your name. So obviously, don't put my name. You don't need my name there. It would be your name. Below that, the class code, which is Bible Old Testament 110, Introduction to the Old Testament. Next is the date, right? I encourage you to put the date the assignment is due. So it would be August 25th, 2022. This is exactly what your title page should look like. Exactly like this. Now, we are going to move on to page number 1. This is where your content will start. So tab all the way down till it gives you a second page. You'll notice it's still centered. We don't need it centered anymore, so we're going to click this to align left. Hit the tab button 1 time, and now you're ready to begin. When you're writing academically, you don't need to editorialize, right? You don't need to use big flowery language, right? Academic writing is giving the facts. For this particular assignment, I'm asking you to summarize the big story of the Bible. What is the Old Testament? Things of that nature. You can find that in the directions under Reading Response 1. So maybe you begin with this statement. The big story of the Bible begins with God creating the universe in six days. Right? So maybe that's how you start. And then you would describe creation, right? This is all outlined in your introduction to the Duval and Hayes text. I'm lecturing on this week. However, if you read the introduction, it will take you through the big story of the Bible. So remember, you're putting it in your own words. You're not just saying exactly what the book says. So let's say you begin with this statement, then you describe creation, and then you describe the fall of man, then you describe covenants and things like that. So it's a big summary, right? Not throwing in a ton of detail, right? Or this is going to end up being a 10-page paper. This assignment only has to be 700 words long, right? So some things you might describe in detail, some things you might describe in just a sentence or two. But remember that if it's not your idea or you are quoting from the book, you must cite it, right? So let's say that this is something from the book, right? So the big story of the Bible begins with God creating the universe in 6 days. If it was a quote, you would put it in quotes like this, right? You always cite direct quotes or things that are not your idea. So if it's a direct quote, Here's what it'll look like, right? We need to footnote this. So in Word, you're going to go up here to References. You're going to click Insert Footnote. Bang. And it does that. So you put your citation right here. Okay? And the citation comes from that Duval and Hayes text, right? Which is going to look like this. So footnote goes here. All you do is click Insert Footnote. It does the numbering for you. And then it'll put it at the bottom of the page, right? You just paste in the citation. And this is the exact citation for you, Duval and Hayes text, so feel free to use it. Now let's say we type again, God created the first two humans, Adam and Eve, and they spent their days with God in the Garden of Eden. Then the next sentence, Adam and Eve had one rule: do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now let's say that is something, we're not quoting it, but that's something that comes right out of the book. So we're going to hit Insert Footnote again. You'll notice it put a number 2. But let's say that it also came from Duval and Hayes. You don't, for citing something again, you don't need the full citation again. So all you're going to do, Duval and Hayes, 2021. If this does not come up in Times New Roman, make sure that it too is Times New Roman 12-point font. So citation 1 is the first instance of using it, so we use the big long one. Citation 2 also comes from the same text. We don't need the long text. You just put the author's name and the year. Now, the other thing too is that your pages need to have page numbers. All right, so for this, there's no page number on the title page. In Turabian, page 1 is this right here. So you're going to go to Insert, page number again. We're going to we want it at the top right corner of the page. And this will be page 1. Now, that needs to be in Times New Roman as well. So home, Times New Roman. You can add in all the page numbers at the end, right? Just remember that this is page 1. Show you this. So the rest of your content will go here. I know it says page 1, but it'll default to page 2. Here, you're going to center your text, bibliography, and then remember, always Times New Roman, always. All of your sources that you use will be in alphabetical order by the author's last name here. This is the way that this is not bolded. This title's not bolded. It appears as is. This is the way that your Turabian paper is set up. If you have questions, you can ask me in class, but this is the way I expect these reading responses to be done. Hope this helps. You guys have a great day.